Today I want to talk about some of the books I really want to read in 2022. I always like making this video at the beginning of the year just to set like a few goals of books I would really like to get to, but I do want to preface this by saying that it's not very likely for me to actually read them. Hi everybody and welcome back to my booktube channel, Books with Leo, and if you're new here, hello, my name's Leora and I make videos about books. A lot of these I do feel confident about the fact that I will actually pick them up and read them this year, but you never know with me because I get very distracted and then I see some new releases or some other books I'm really interested in and then I end up reading those, and you know, that has happened to me before on several occasions. So I just want to say that, I just want to get that out there so you guys know. I think last year at the beginning of the year I made a video called Fantasy Books I Still Want to Read in 2021 and I hardly read any of them, so oops. Today I have a mishmash of books which will make it more likely, I think, that I will actually pick them up, which is great. Hi, so before we get into the rest of the video, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Thank you so much again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video and making it possible for me to keep creating content on here. You've probably heard of Book of the Month if you've been on my channel before because we love working together. They are a very popular and constantly growing online book service for readers whose mission it is to promote new and emerging authors so they can help you find the books that you love. Their team goes through many new releases and debuts and makes a curated selection so you can spend less time researching and more time reading. I'm very happy to be working with Book of the Month again as they have a great selection. They always have so many books to choose from and they are risk-free, meaning that you can skip any time, any month without charge. Another plus is that they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction. In fact, you can have your first book for only $9.99 with code Leora. A side note though is that they currently do not ship outside of the US. I have a lot of audience in the US, so I still decided to partner up with them. So let's take a look at this month's books. First book on the list is Don't Cry For Me by Daniel Black. This is a historical fiction about a father who's failed his son and is now using letters to express his love. Then this is a debut novel, Vladimir by Julia May Jonas, a darkly humorous exploration of gender and power which follows a bad-tempered female professor in the midst of a scandal. The next pick is Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu, a multi-generational epic historical fiction that traces the enthralling story of a mother and son who journey from China to America. Another option this month is The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekanen, an early release book that tells the twisty tale of a therapist with unconventional methods trying to unlock the mystery of a perfect marriage. Last but not least, we have A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, some Scottish fantasy. This is a story set on the magical Isle of Cadence, where two childhood enemies must team up to discover why girls are going missing from their clan. This would absolutely be my pick as it sounds so cool. Supposedly the Isle in the story can shapeshift, so that sounds really interesting. First-time members can sign up with any book they would like, so don't forget to head on over to bookofthemonth.com and use your code Leora to get your first book for only $9.99. Thanks so much. Let's now head back to the video. I did also kind of really want to make a 22 books that I will read in 2022 video, but I could for the life of me not find 22 books I felt confident about that I would actually read them, so that was improbable. But now I do have quite a few books that I think I will pick up this year, so without any further ado, let's just get into them. So the first book I really want to pick up this year, and that could be now or maybe more in the fall time, but I did borrow this book from a friend, so I better get to it sooner than later. Anyway, that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I have read the first chapter of this book and I actually liked the first chapter, so that bodes well for me. However, I did not continue my read. I do really want to read this book. It is a dark academia book and I think it is about a man who's just served 10 years for a murder. I think he's telling the story of what actually happened to the detective that wanted to figure it out but never did. So he's retelling the story like that had happened already. And that story is about him and some of his friends at an elite sort of acting university, I think. So they're all in theatre. It's very dark academia. It is said that if you loved Donna Tartt's The Secret History, you would also really love this book. I liked The Secret History, but it was not my favourite thing ever. However, I feel like this one might be a better fit for me, so I really, really want to read it, but I just never pick it up because there's so many books out there in the world that I want to read and I can just never get to them all. You could also see it on the positive side though. I will never run out of stories, so that's amazing. Anyway, really want to pick this one up. I also love the cover, and if my friend really wants it back, I'll just have to buy myself a copy. Then another book I really want to get to this year, I'm not sure if I'll actually get to this one, but I really want to, and that is The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is the conclusion to the Scythe series. I've really enjoyed the Scythe series. It's basically a future sci-fi, and it's about this society where nobody dies anymore, and so there are scythes who are sort of like government serial killers, and they kill everybody that is like destined to die. And then it's also about this sort of sentient AI that controls the world, and it's about all these different things. There's a lot of political elements, there's a lot of intrigue. It's just a very interesting world, and it was really well done. Especially the second book really blew me away at the end with everything that was happening. But the thing is, I've kind of forgotten all of it. This is always an issue with me because I never pick up sequels. Well, and if I do, then I do that so much later that I have a hard time getting back into them. Mood reader struggles. With this one too, I think it was 2020 that I read Thunderhead, or maybe even 2019. So I'm not that confident that I will understand what is happening in this book. So maybe I should look up like a summary online or something. I really want to know what happens to Citra and Rowan, and I just want to continue this story, so I should really pick it up. Another book that I would love to finally get to this year, because this one has also been on my shelves for a while, is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. And it says on the cover, "Notes from the Women White Feminists Forgot." This is one of those non-fiction feminist books that I love to read to learn more about feminism and to become a better feminist myself. But the thing is, a lot of times I read these books on audiobook, these type of books, or I sort of read them on my iPad in between reads, and then I sort of forget that I also have some of them on my shelves. So there's more examples than just this one that are on my shelves, and I just forget they exist. The same has happened with this one, because it was like this on my shelf and then I forgot that I had it. I almost re-bought it. Like, what is wrong with me? I will read some of the insight to you to explain what it is about. All too often, the focus of mainstream feminism is not on a basic survival for the many, but on increasing privilege for the few. Meeting basic needs is a feminist issue. Food insecurity, the living wage, and access to education are feminist issues. The fight against racism, ableism, and transmisogyny are feminist issues. White feminists often fail to see how race, class, sexual orientation, and disability intersect with gender. How can feminists stand in solidarity as a movement when there is a distinct likelihood that some women are oppressing others? Insightful, incendiary, and ultimately hopeful, Hood Feminism is both an irrefutable indictment of a movement in flux and clear-eyed assessment of how to save it. So I think this will be a really interesting read, and probably a very critical look on how mainstream feminism leaves a lot of women behind. I've also read a book by Lola Olufemi that also touched on this subject. I think it is called Feminism Interrupted, which is also a great recommendation if you want to read more books like this one. But anyway, this is one I should really pick up, and I do really want to pick it up because I'm just so interested in this. So yeah. Another book I would really like to read this year is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. We all know I love me a good romance, and I love Helen Huang. She always writes lovely books. I've only read one of them, but I just have a lot of faith in Helen Huang. I love The Kiss Quotient, and I'm just certain that I'll love this one too. I think it's about a violinist, and I always love stories about classical music, not sure why. I've read some stories before that were about people who played the violin. I just find it wildly attractive and very interesting. And I think she's really pressuring herself. Oh yeah, she's struggling with burnout. And then she is learning to embrace the unexpected, and the man she enlists to help her, oh, she's also embracing him, in this heartfelt new romance. That just sounds really cool. I've heard from a lot of people that this book is a lot more emotional and a bit more like introverted than Helen Huang's other books, which makes me really interested in it. I usually don't gravitate toward more emotional reads because I already cry a lot on my own. Like, I'm emotional enough, I don't need help. But with Helen Huang, I'm willing to give it a try just because I loved her other books so much. And that one really made me happy while also giving me like some new things to think about within the narrative. So that was really cool. So I'm hoping this one can do the same for me. By the way, I am definitely a bit sad that I didn't have the willpower to look up 22 books for this video, but yeah, at least now the chance is really higher that I'll actually read all of the books I present to you instead of like just not reading them. Another book I would really love to read this year is The Bridesmaids Survival Guide by Hannah O'Donnell. When I just held this up, didn't you guys all think, wow, what a gorgeous cover. It is so cute and pretty. Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, I designed this cover. For those of you who don't know, I'm also an illustrator and a designer, and Hannah approached me to design this cover for her. So I did the design, the hand lettering, the illustration, everything. And I just think the final copy of the book ended up looking so cute, and I'm so excited to finally read it. I also did some illustrations for the chapter headings and also the first pages. And it is just so cool to see your own name in a book and to see your own design on a book, and it just makes me very excited for when one day I will hopefully publish a book myself. So this is just really cool. I am planning on reading this during the spring because I think it's a very spring like rom-com that will just fit in right there. I have read a few chapters of this before it came out, so I could like get the vibe and do the design right. So it's basically about Reverie, and she gets dumped 2 weeks before her aunt gets married, which is not very handy. We basically read about how she struggles through being a bridesmaid, but then she meets a cute guy and it goes from there. Not entirely sure what's going to happen, but I do know that body positivity is usually a big theme in Hannah's books, and she also always writes in a very fun and loving, heartfelt way about love, because she also did that in her other book, Fat Lip, and I just really enjoyed reading that one too. So I can't wait to dive into this one. I think Hannah's a phenomenal writer, and I'm really excited to read it and to then present it to everybody because I designed this. And then what I would also like to read this year is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This story just sounds so intriguing to me, and I think it will be a story that will stay with me for a long time. That's also what I've heard of friends and people I follow who've read it, so I'm just really interested in reading it. But because I feel like it might also be a heavy story, I just don't really gravitate towards it, because I usually just want to read books that make me happy. It depends on my mood, of course. Sometimes I want to read something that will teach me something, or that will take me like on an adventure. It definitely depends on the mood. I also have her other book, The Mothers, and I also just have to notice how beautiful these covers are. The Mothers also has a gorgeous cover, and I just really love the design of these. Anyway, this book is about two sisters, the Vinge sisters, who are twins. They grow up together in a small southern black community, and then when they are 16, they both sort of go their own ways. And I think we read about them at a younger age, and then also them as they are adults and have their own children. One of them still lives in the town, and the other one is sort of passing for white and lives with a husband that knows absolutely nothing about her past. And it says on the back, weaving together multiple strands and generations from the deep south to California, from the 1950s to the 1990s, The Vanishing Half is at once a riveting, emotional family story and a brilliant exploration of race, gender, identity, and the lasting influence of the past as it shapes a person's desires and expectations. So that just sounds really good and super interesting, and I really want to pick this up this year. I have good faith in it that I will. This is the last one we're going to talk about today. I also really want to pick up The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller this year. Not entirely sure if I actually will pick this up, just because it's been hyped so much, and I didn't particularly enjoy Circe. Like, I liked it, but it wasn't my favourite thing, and then I kind of ended up resenting it because everybody seems to love it so much, and I want it too, but I couldn't. I don't want that to happen with this one. The cover is so stunning, the story seems so cool, but in my experience, I've usually not been a great match with Greek mythology. It doesn't work, I don't know. Anyway, let me read the cover for you because I'm not entirely sure. Otherwise, I'll explain in the right way what this is about. So it says, Greece in the age of heroes, Patroclus, an awkward young prince, has been exiled to the court of King Peleus and his perfect son, Achilles. Despite their differences, the boys develop a tender friendship, a bond which blossoms into something deeper as they grow into young men. But when Helen of Sparta is kidnapped, Achilles is dispatched to distant Troy to fulfill his destiny. Torn between love and fear for his friend, Patroclus follows, little knowing that the years that will follow will test everything that they hold dear. Okay, sounds cool. I don't know, I think I'm just scared that I won't like it as much as everybody else seems to, but maybe it'll be a hit, so I definitely want to try and pick this up this year. So those are some of the books I really want to read this year. Let's hope I get to all of them. And yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you guys still want to read this year, so definitely let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any video ideas for me, those are always welcome as well. I hope you have a lovely day today and you're reading something fun, and I'll see all of you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!